The grand chandelier casts a ghostly glow over the marble floor, now stained with blood. Thanet kneels, trembling, his designer suit ruined, his hands cradling the still warm body of his wife. Her unblinking eyes reflect the flashing police lights outside. His breath is ragged, his mind racing. How did it come to this? Under the moonlight, that night I love. A policeman's knee presses against Thanet's back as cold steel handcuffs bite into his wrists. His once pristine tie hangs loose, drenched in sweat. The weight of the law feels heavier than the accusations being thrown at him. The crowd gathers, whispering and watching the fall of a once great man. His face hardens, not in fear, but in silent defiance. Barefoot and desperate, Thanet stumbles into the rain-soaked alley, his designer shoes long abandoned. His breath is hot, his lungs burning as he weaves through the labyrinth of Bangkok's neon-lit backstreets. Distant sirens wail, shadows stretch menacingly, and every passing face feels like an enemy. There is no going back, only forward, deeper into the unknown. A bustling marketplace filled with lively chatter, and the aroma of sizzling street food descends into chaos as Thanet charges through, knocking over fruit stalls and pushing past startled vendors. A mother screams, urgently pulling her child out of his way. Behind him, the sound of polished shoes grows louder. The hunters are closing in. Metal shrieks as bullets pierce the car door beside him. Thanet ducks, heart hammering, gripping his side where a sharp pain reminds him he's not invincible. The road ahead is blocked, too late to turn back. The men with cold eyes and steady hands advance, their weapons gleaming under the flickering streetlights. The world tilts as Thanet's legs buckle beneath him. He stumbles through the undergrowth before finally falling face first onto the damp soil. His chest heaves, and his breath comes in barely a whisper. The stream beside him gurgles softly, indifferent to his suffering. His vision blurs, and his grip on consciousness slips away like water through his fingers. Molly's feet come to an abrupt halt. A body filthy, bloodied, and unmoving lies near the stream, half hidden by the undergrowth. Her first instinct screams danger, but curiosity lingers. She steps closer, hesitating, before crouching down. His face is a mix of pain and exhaustion. Yet beneath the grime, she sees something else, something worth saving. The scent of herbs and candle wax fills the small wooden cottage. Thanet stirs, groaning as rough hands press a damp cloth to his forehead. Molly observes him, her brow furrowed and frustration flashing in her eyes. "Your trouble," she mutters, almost as if scolding fate itself. Yet her fingers remain gentle and careful, already deciding to shoulder the weight of his burdens. The firelight flickers between them, casting shadows on the wooden walls. Thanet's voice is low and gravelly as he speaks of betrayals and bloodshed. Molly listens, her arms wrapped around her knees, her expression unreadable. When he falls silent, the only sound is the distant chirping of crickets. Then, a quiet chuckle escapes her lips. "You've lived through a terrible movie." The night air is crisp and heavy, with the scent of wet earth and wildflowers. Thanet's fingers brush against Molly's, and she doesn't pull away. The silence stretches, thick with unspoken words. Then, under the silver light of the moon, their lips meet a hesitant, fragile promise in the dark. Detective Manat stands in front of a chaotic collage of evidence pinned to his board. Red strings connect photographs of deceased men, bank statements, and names whispered in dark alleys. He traces the tangled web with his fingers, knowing that somewhere in this mess lies the truth. He just needs to pull the right thread. A sharp whistle pierces the air. Manat barely has time to duck before the glass behind him shatters. A bullet embeds itself in his desk, just inches from his hand. He exhales, his heart pounding, as shadows shift outside his office window. Someone doesn't want him asking questions. The air in the executive's office is thick with cigar smoke. Manat steps forward and lays a folder on the desk. "Your money is dirty," he states, his voice steady. The executive exhales a lazy cloud of smoke and smirks. "So is the whole world, detective. What makes you think you're clean?" Beyond the towering gates, Thanet sees flickering lanterns and figures, moving like ghosts through the misty jungle. He grips the knife hidden at his waist. He came here for answers and revenge. But survival? That was never guaranteed. Blades clash. Gunfire erupts. Fists slam against flesh. The stronghold transforms into a battlefield, bodies darting between shadows, the scent of blood mixing with damp earth. Thanet moves with precision. This is no longer escape. This is war. His knuckles bleed. His breath is ragged. But he does not fall. Not yet. Thanet wipes the sweat from his brow, meeting his enemy's gaze. "You took everything from me," he growls. "Now, I take it back." The dust settles. A broken man kneels before Thanet, his lips trembling and eyes pleading. Thanet remains silent. The world is quiet now, save for the slow, measured beat of his heart. Some wars don't end in glory, they end in silence. The parchment trembles in his hands, ink smudged. The words are simple yet heavy. "I cannot be part of your world." Thanet's breath shudders as he swallows hard. He should have known. Bare feet sink into the cool, damp earth, the mud squishing between his toes. Thanet gazes thoughtfully at the rippling water, its surface shimmering under the soft glow of the fading light. He keeps his hands buried in his pockets, feeling the weight of unspoken thoughts. This place, an intersection of endings and new beginnings, breathes with an electric stillness, inviting contemplation and possibility. She stands at the water's edge, her arms crossed defiantly, the moonlight casting a silvery glow over her features. The gentle ripples of the water reflect the shimmering light, creating a dreamlike scene. Thanet takes a tentative step closer, his heart pounding as the distance between them feels insurmountable. "You left," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. Molly's lips curve into a faint, enigmatic smile. "You didn't stop me." Thanet's fingers gently glide along the curve of her jawline, their warmth igniting a flicker of hope in the darkness. "I've lost everything," he whispers, his voice trembling with vulnerability. "But I won't lose you." The night envelops them, silencing her response. But when her lips press against his, it speaks volumes, an unspoken promise that transcends words. The chaos of the city is now a distant memory. Thanet stands in a vast rice field, where the golden crops sway gently in the breeze. Although the weight of past battles lingers in his gaze, Marley smiles beside him, planting the future one seed at a time with her hands in the soil. Her hands in the soil. Stacks of worn files and yellowed documents clutter Manat's desk, their edges curling with age. The dim light of his office struggles to banish the shadows, which loom ominously over the damning evidence laid out before him. Corruption, murder, and shattered lives emerge from the pages, each piece meticulously linked to the sprawling empire of a ruthless executive. Manat exhales sharply, a mixture of disbelief and determination coursing through him. "Got you," he whispers, the words heavy with the weight of his discovery. The old wood creaks under Thanet's hands as he firmly drives the last nail into place, the sound echoing softly in the serene afternoon air. A modest shop, crafted with labor and a stubborn glimmer of hope, proudly stands at the edge of the village, its freshly painted facade glistening in the sunlight. Molly approaches, a steaming cup of tea in her hands, and a playful grin on her face. "I thought you were a businessman, not a carpenter," she teases, her eyes sparkling with amusement. Thanet chuckles, wiping the sweat from his brow, and replies, "I'm learning." A dark factory. Footsteps crunch on gravel. Manat waits in the shadows, his gun steady. The assassins arrive, exchanging envelopes filled with blood money. A second later, the silence explodes, gunfire, shouting, bodies dropping. Manat never misses. The rhythmic beat of distant drums reverberates through the night, while colorful lanterns gracefully ascend into the starlit sky, casting a warm glow over the festivities below. Children dash about with infectious joy, their laughter ringing like melodic chimes in the gentle evening air. At the heart of the celebration, Thanet sits surrounded by faces both unfamiliar and inviting, each one reflecting the spirit of kinship. Molly leans in and gives him a gentle nudge, her voice a soothing whisper, "Your family now." The air is thick with swirling dust and palpable tension, wrapping around Manat like a heavy cloak. Crates tower high, creating a makeshift labyrinth of cover, but he glides through the shadows like a phantom. Suddenly, the sharp click of a gun being cocked pierces the stillness behind him. Instinct kicks in. He spins on his heel and fires with precision. Another adversary drops silently to the ground. Without hesitation, he continues his relentless pursuit, slipping deeper into the chaos. The skyline of glittering lights sprawls behind the executive's towering glass office, each twinkle mirroring the pulse of the city below. Manat places a thick folder onto the polished mahogany desk with a resolute thud. "It's over," he declares, his voice steady but taut with tension. The executive leans back in his plush leather chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin, eyes narrowed in contemplation. "Is it?" he replies, his tone laced with skepticism. In the shadows behind him, guards shift silently, their presence palpable, and the air hums with unspoken threats that hang heavy between them. Red and blue lights blink rhythmically, reflecting off the polished marble floors like urgent beacons in the night. The once untouchable executives, clad in an expensive suit now rendered powerless, stands cuffed, his piercing eyes smoldering with a cold fury that could ignite a fire. Maninat observes the scene with a mix of triumph and relief as the man is led away. The heavy silence broken only by the sound of cuffs clinking against steel. He exhales slowly, feeling the weight of justice settle on his shoulders like a tangible burden. The battle may not be over, but in this moment, he knows he has emerged victorious. The moon hangs high in the night sky, casting a silvery glow over the scene and serving as their silent witness once more. There are no grand speeches, none are necessary for the bond they share. Thanet gently takes Mali's hands in his warmth enveloping her as he presses her delicate fingers to his lips, the soft night air surrounding them. "Wherever you go, I will follow," he declares, his voice steady and sincere. A playful smirk dances on Mali's lips, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I hope you enjoy rice fields then," she teases, hinting at adventures yet to come.